Well, the Biden infrastructure plan is not just on track. It's not just on track tonight. It really looks like it is on a winning track. And there are the two tracks of the Biden infrastructure plan, the bipartisan track and the Democrats only track. And 2 weeks ago, President Biden successfully negotiated a bipartisan agreement on the bipartisan track with a bipartisan group of senators and on a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, which in and of itself would be the largest infrastructure bill Congress has ever considered. Until this week, when President Biden and all of the Democratic members of the Senate Budget Committee agreed on another $3.5 trillion on a wider range of infrastructure spending that is designed to pass with only Democratic votes in the United States Senate through the budget reconciliation process, which requires only 51 votes. And that process begins in the Senate Budget Committee, chaired masterfully so far in this process by Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders. As Rachel and I have discussed, and as proved true today, Chairman Sanders obviously made sure that the $3.5 trillion framework that he was designing in his committee would be acceptable not just to his committee, but also to Senator Joe Manchin, who's not a member of the committee, but it represents one side of the Democratic Party, and also to Speaker Nancy Pelosi and apparently the entire House of Representatives. Bernie Sanders has wired that whole thing. There would be no point in Chairman Sanders getting the Budget Committee to agree to the shape of a bill that could not pass the Senate and the House. Nancy Pelosi praised the bill that has been agreed to by the Democrats on the Senate Budget Committee, saying that it will make bold, essential investments in our values as a nation. Here's what Senator Joe Manchin had to say about Bernie Sanders' Budget Committee's bill.
Well, I'm open to looking at everything they've provided, okay? They're going to have to provide all the information that's going to be needed. They've worked hard. They should have a proposal. The president's going to come today and explain. We'll listen to that. We'll look at the proposal, look at the priorities they have for our country, and then basically look at how we're going to pay for it. And if we have to, with tax adjustments being made, is it going to be globally competitive?
Does it have to be completely paid for?
I think we should start paying for stuff.
Senator, would you
Everything, but is this a red line for you?
There's no red lines.
No red lines. That's all you're ever listening for. That's all you want to know at this stage of legislation. Does anyone out there have a red line that this legislation crosses and that person can't support it? No red lines means Joe Manchin is on board with this bill. Yes, he's going to want to see the details. Sure, they all want to see the details, but he is on board. Senator Manchin had previously indicated that he did not want this bill to go much above $2 trillion, while Bernie Sanders was insisting that it should be in the $6 trillion range. And now they have both compromised to get to this point. And as of tonight, not a single Democrat has laid down a red line that will prevent this bill from passing. Senator Sanders framed this bill's place in history this way.
I would say the most consequential piece of legislation being proposed since the Great Depression and FDR. It is complicated, it is difficult, but I believe it is what the American people want. And I hope very much that if we are successful, people will say that this is the moment where we restored faith in our government, that it can work for ordinary people, not just the wealthy.
I find it easy to describe the process that we're seeing here, but it is difficult to describe the degree of legislative difficulty in what we are watching tonight and the precision required. We have never seen anything like this before. We have never seen a giant presidential program being enacted through two pieces of legislation at the same time on two different tracks, a bipartisan bill and a one-party bill. President Joe Biden actually went up to the Senate today and attended the Democratic senators' policy lunch to lock down Democratic Senate support for the budget bill Bernie Sanders has brought out to the Senate. It is extremely rare for a president to attend one of the party's weekly lunches in the Senate. Most presidents never did that. But for Joe Biden, it was a homecoming.
Hey, buddy. This is my homecoming. Great to be home. Great to be back with all my colleagues, and I think we're going to get a lot done. Mr. President, any concern that having two tracks here will disrupt the bipartisan agreement that was
No, I think it's the only way to get it done is having two tracks. Thank you.
Leading off our discussion tonight, Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow from Michigan. She's a member of the Senate Budget Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. Senator, you have been in the room with the Budget Committee working out this deal. You're also in the room with the president today when he came, I guess we can call it, back to lunch with the Senate Democrats, as he did for 36 years. First of all, tell us about being in the room with the Budget Committee members, with Mark Warner in a way representing the Manchin side of the Senate, Bernie Sanders. There's no one to the left of Bernie Sanders in the Senate. And how difficult was it to come to this $3.5 trillion agreement?
Well, Lawrence, first of all, it's really wonderful to be with you this evening and to hear your explanation of the budget resolution and reconciliation. You really are an expert on this, and I would just say amen to the way you explained it. I have had the opportunity now to be on the Budget Committee since being in the Senate now for 20 years and being a senior member of Finance. I have to tell you, it was really meaningful and incredible to be in that room the last two nights, hour after hour, talking to colleagues about what they think is important and how to get consensus. It wasn't easy. I mean, you understand how all this works. We all have we have many things that we agree on and other things that we want to do that others may not view as a priority. And so I agree with you. I mean, Bernie Sanders was terrific. I mean, really the best I have ever seen him as the leader of the Budget Committee. And I have to say that Senator Schumer, who was pivotal in all of this, Senator Mark Warner, who really was representing sort of the other end of the Budget Committee, and all of us, we were working with the White House, who had folks in the room as well. I mean, this really was listening and pushing, back and forth with each other. But the bottom line was this: we really believe that it's time that the American people know that somebody's got their back and that the tax code should work for working people, not just the rich, not just the millionaires and billionaires. We believe that if you ask billionaires to pay something, that's not a tax increase, more than zero. It's not a tax increase. I mean, we came together on the biggest middle class tax cut in history, tackling the climate crisis, which is the existential crisis of our time, while creating tens of millions of jobs that we can do at the same time, and then making sure that people know, with all the costs they have in their life, that we are going to help them be able to bring those costs down. From childcare to the cost of prescription drugs, to Medicare paying for dental and hearing and vision. And so as we worked through what we care about, and the fact that it really all comes back to putting people first and having people understand that somebody sees them, hears them, cares about them, and will fight for them. And it was those values that really brought us all together in the end.
What was it like to have President Biden back at the Senators' lunch today? And was that a victory celebration, or was that the president trying to make sure that he was solidifying support in the Democratic Senate?
I think probably a little bit of both, but I have to tell you, from the moment he walked in the room, I don't know how long the standing ovation was, but it was a long time. And people were cheering and, so they're so proud of him. We're all so proud of him. And we trust him. We know his values are in the right place. His gut tells him the right things to do in terms of really stepping out for working people and on, again, the serious issues around climate and jobs and all of the other issues. And it was interesting. He opened it up for questions. And instead of questions, almost everything was a thank you from somebody. And, in our caucus, we're not shy about being tough, on a president or an administration official coming into the caucus. And that's not what happened. I mean, people one by one are standing up and saying, thank you, Mr. President, for this. Thank you, Mr. President, for that. And then he picked up the mic and walked around the room. And so, you know, President Biden, I mean, he's walking up to people. He knows what they've worked on for years. He's worked with us. I came in 2001, and he was one of my mentors from the very beginning. So he's connecting with people. He's talking to them in very personal terms. And he, as they say, owned the room. I mean, people were just so pleased that he was there, and more importantly, very grateful that he's our president.
Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow, I've been in that room many times, but it feels like you just brought us all back into that room today. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.